Well, very interesting. Well, our panel is still with us, let's start with that. The sorts of tools that extremists can use. What is the best way, do you think, to combat the various threats?
These songs, of course, are popular in culture all around the world. So, counter songs, if you like one man was there spreading a peaceful, moderate, but also a deeper message of Islam through songs is a counter-effective method to do that, because you know, I grew up listening to some of those songs. They came out of the Muslim Brotherhood prisoners who were imprisoned and tortured in Egypt's prisons, and they're actually very powerful and emotive songs talking about death and martyrdom and fighting for the sake of God, etc. And they continue to this day around the world, performed at weddings and parties and other places. But thank God, 95% of that market is, if you like, beautiful spiritual songs, and those need to be amplified. And of course, the underlying ideology, if that is countered, then the positive ideas which come out of that will make their way into positive songs.
Your organisation, the Quilliam Foundation, does a lot of work in trying to combat the threat and counter some of these pressures. What are the key gaps that need to be closed, do you think, currently?
We have to challenge some of the classic notions rooted in the Quran, which the rebels misuse. So concepts like Ummah, the Muslim nation, Sharia, Jihad and Caliphate. They take very narrow and twisted interpretations of all of those. We try to promote, you know, balance and deeper versions of that. There's also an issue about Islam and the state, religion and politics, and how far do you separate religion from the state? You know, do you have to have an Islamic state or a secular state or an Islamic secular state? Is there such a thing? That's a very crucial distinction.
And Professor, you've written about the same thing, which is interpretation and a problem almost, that there's not a central figure.
It is a central. The question for us today is, there is one Islam as to the scriptural sources and the main principles. There are many interpretations, but we have to draw a limit. There are interpretations that are not Islamic. They are even anti-Islamic, and we have to be clear on this. So what is said about, you know, defining the concepts, understanding the message, but at the same time understanding the diversity. It's very important when we have dogmatic minds to make it clear that Islam has many interpretations and that we have to be open to interpretations with the limits that if anybody who's coming to tell me you can kill innocent people, this is not an accepted interpretation. This is outside. So we have to do this. And let me tell you something, because you were asking a question about what we can do. Paradoxically, the best way today to do something against this perception that we are marginalized, stigmatized as Muslims is to come worldwide with a better narrative about Islam. It's really important not to focus on the extremists that are less than 1%, these are marginal people, and to come to something which is in the West as well, because we are asking, why are they going? It's a better narrative, to better understanding of Islam. And the politicians in the West, sometimes they are targeting the extremists, and the journalists are doing the same. And we have a common responsibility here about Islam.
Doctor, we were talking about questions from the audience and viewers, and one of the questions that has come in points to Boko Haram, saying if you look at the list here in terms of casualties, the numbers, the attacks from Boko Haram, given just the extent of it, why hasn't the West intervened like it has elsewhere?
Well, I think the main problem is within the government in Nigeria, the willingness of the government whether to accommodate some sort of assistance from foreign powers and so on. Now, there is this sort of distrust between Nigerian government and foreign government. For instance, American government and Nigeria have been arguing over the fact that Nigerian military have carried out all sorts of human rights abuses that now makes it impossible for the American government to support Nigeria militarily. And of course, the fact that the government in Nigeria has not done much to curtail abuse of human rights has made it very difficult for America to come in. But then the most important problem there is that the Nigerian government is not doing its job properly, because if they are not taking the responsibility of securing lives and property of people, then no one else is going to do it. This is an internal problem. You start doing something. By the time you're doing something and people from outside can come out to support you, it's not just possible for outsiders to come out with a kind of magic wand and solve the problem for you overnight.
What is the way to look at data like this and to try to make progress?
I think it's important to situate ideology in its proper context. So ideology has its place as an explanatory variable, but extremist ideology is really just the cultural lexicon of radical Muslims in a particular context, and they are radicalized because of a political context. If you want a solution to radicalization, you look at the context which has fostered that. In Europe, if we're talking about European Muslims, we need to look at the disenfranchisement of Muslims, why there is a sense of alienation among certain Muslims. If you want to look locally in Iraq and Syria, let's talk about the conflicts. If you want a long-term solution to this, we need stable states in the region that can actually operate a sense of security, that can actually monitor their borders, that can actually assert some control in the region. We need a long-term solution to the Syrian conflict. There is no discussion of that. We all favor discussions about ideology as if it's something out there that Muslims need to deal with. No, these are real political conflicts that require political solutions.
Yes, I think if I may just add something here, which is
very briefly, because we're almost out of time.
It's about freedom, it's about dignity of the people. It's not about the conflict. What they want, and we saw this with people taking to the street in all these countries, that they want freedom. So we have to support the true democratization, not dictators that are helping our interests, but true democratic processes that help letting the people live and to be dignified in their life. That's so important.
Well, there we have to leave it. We have run out of time. Thanks to all of you for being with me here throughout the course of the programme. Keep sending your thoughts. We'll continue to look at this on BBC World News throughout the course of today. Thanks so much for joining us here on this special edition of Global. Bye-bye for now.